Russian discoverers came to Kamchatka, indigenous peoples already lived there. But long before the first humans set foot on the land of Kamchatka, in coastal waters dwelled its real Aboriginals, orcas, or killer whales. Orcas appeared on the earth several millions of years ago, and since that time have occupied all oceans. In Kamchatka, one can see them more often than any other cetacean. To study these wonderful creatures, we settled on this island in Avacha Gulf of Kamchatka. The island is small and inhabited only by birds. Here, kittiwakes and gulls build their nests. Pigeon guillemots also feed and mate. Extravagant tufted puffins raise their nestlings in burrows, which they dig with their strong beak. Moors make nests on the rocks, forming big colonies. In coastal waters dwell larga seals, who curiously observe us from the safe distance. We built a small house in a quiet bay to protect ourselves from storms coming from the open sea. During storms, waves bend around the island on both sides and crash, throwing up towering splashes. Every morning, if the weather is good, we go to the sea in a small inflatable boat to meet orcas. There are two archetypes of killer whales in the North Pacific: fish-eating and mammal-eating. Hunting traditions in killer whales pass from generation to generation, as in human tribes. Fish-eating and mammal-eating orcas never communicate with each other. Around our island, we usually see fish-eating killer whales. They mostly feed on atka, mackerel and salmon. They never hunt on larga seals living around our island. Dulce porpoises also feel themselves safe swimming close to these orcas. Fish-eating killer whales usually travel in large groups, because it's easier to herd the school of fish together, and it provides enough food for everyone. They use different strategies for fishing. Sometimes groups disperse and whales catch fish one by one. In other cases, they herd fish schools by cooperative carousel fishing. During fishing, orcas emit various sounds. They usually produce echolocation clicks to navigate and find prey. They also emit whistles and calls, probably to coordinate their activity while herding fish. Pods are comprised of females and several generations of their offspring, which remain in the natal pod for their entire life. The adult males in the pod are typically sons, brothers, and uncles of the other pod members. Orcas look for mates outside of their own pod. Females usually become mature at the age 11-14 years and live from 50 to 100 years. An adult female gives birth to a calf once every 5 years, to about age of 40. Nursing lasts about a year, but the juvenile remains with his mother to learn hunting skills and social behavior, and to adopt the customs and habits of his group. Females give birth to about 5 calves in their reproductive lifetime, but not all young survive to maturity. After the age of 40, females don't reproduce, but help young mothers to protect and breed their calves. Old females are very important for group survival, because during their long life they collected knowledge about prey distribution, migration routes, sea currents, and other features of the living range. To distinguish individual orcas, we take a photo of each animal in the group. Differences in the shape of the saddle patch and dorsal fin allow us to discern each photographed animal. Photographs are thoroughly analyzed and then included in the catalog, which enables us to recognize animal in case of resighting. Orcas are very social, and bonds between group members are as strong as in human families. At the same time, each animal has its own character. Photo identification allows us to monitor the social bonds between animals.
Последний кадр на второй карточке 837. 8137, 8137.
Each orcapod has its own habits, preferred hunting and resting areas, and unique vocal dialect. To hear and record their voices, we stop the boat and drop the hydrophone. Orcas produced various sounds, clicks, whistles, and calls. Some of their calls are stereotyped and easily discerned by ear. Each pod has its own set of calls, the vocal dialect. Dialects of related pods are similar, but those less related differ to a corresponding degree in their dialects. Using a single hydrophone, we cannot determine which whale is calling. To locate the direction of underwater sound, we use 2 hydrophones divided by a soundproof disc. Each hydrophone receives sound only from one side, so we can determine if the sound comes from the left or right. Calls come to both hydrophones only if the edge of the disc is directed to the whale, so we can define the direction with high accuracy. To study the population structure and relationships between killer whales, we take the genetic sample, a small piece of skin. Each killer whale gets a number, and to some of them we give names. This juvenile with the black bands of the saddle patch is called Nemo. He is very playful and often comes close to the boat. This adult male with a hooked dorsal fin and open saddle patch is named Hooky. Here he is traveling with his group in front of the Veluchinsky volcano. This curious juvenile swimming behind our boat was named Humpy. because of the hump on his back. But the hump doesn't prevent him from playing with other orcas. The behavior of orcas around us differs depending on their habits and mood. Some orcas don't even let us to make photos, and others come to the boat themselves and observe us with interest. They often swim just behind the propeller, maybe because they like air bubbles tickling their skin. But sometimes they also come to the drifting boat, probably just out of curiosity. But the friendliness and intelligence of these animals has backfired for them. Orcas are now one of the most popular stars of oceanariums, and in recent years there have been several attempts to catch them in Kamchatka waters. In 2003, more than 25 orcas were encircled by a net in Avacha Gulf. There were members of several pods, including hookies. The catchers had no experience of orca capturing, and as a result, several animals became entangled in the net.
Не уйдут, не уйдут, не уйдут, все не уйдут. Сейчас посмотрим, посмотрим. Вот он застрял, застрял, застрял. Кто таранит сеть, помогает ему. Вот сети вынырнул в кармане. Ну ты что, утонет, пусть с ним, мы его возьмем.
One entangled animal, a young female, drowned. Another young female was captured and lifted to the deck. After a short stay in a makeshift pen in Avacha Bay, the captured orca was moved to the Utrecht Dolphinarium on the Black Sea, where she died 13 days later. However, attempts of capturing are continued in the following years. It is no wonder, because many foreign oceanariums are willing to pay about $1 million for one captured orca. Of course, many people want to observe these wonderful animals close up. But for orcas, an oceanarium or marine zoo is a prison. It is much better to watch orcas in their natural habitat. In the wild, orcas will show you all their tricks by free will, not by a trainer's whistle. Whale watching is growing all over the world, and since recently is developed at Kamchatka. Besides orcas, you can also see other marine mammals here. Gulls and harbor porpoises are local residents. Sperm whales and minke whales frequent these waters, and once we were lucky to see a group of Baird's-beaked whales. These large-toothed whales feed on squid, diving for them to a great depth. And larger seals, our curious neighbors along the shores, often take a look at us. The underwater world of Avacha Gulf swarms with life, but its ecological balance is delicate. The species inhabiting these waters are connected by complex links, and breaking any of them can threaten the entire ecosystem. Orcas are vulnerable because they are top predators of marine food chain. They are few in numbers and have low growth and breeding rates. Threats such as pollution and depleting of prey stocks affect them above all. When the numbers of some fish species were reduced by overfishing, orcas started to search for new food sources. In the Okhotsk Sea, they now steal fish from longlines and bottom nets, evoking fishermen's anger. This is only one sign of disturbance in the natural balance. We should think carefully about our choices if we want to preserve Kamchatkan nature in a relatively pristine state. But for now, orcas continue to slice the waters of Avacha Gulf with their sharp, pointed fins.